I've run out of spoons. I don't have the spoons to do that. That's gonna cost me 3 spoons. What on earth am I even talking about? So the first year after I had my stoma surgery, I learned a lot about the disabled and chronic illness communities, cultures, and advocacy. And now, 5 years later, a lot of the things that I've learned have just become a normal part of my understanding of the world and also the language that I use. But many of these things are still new to other people. And of course, I am always learning myself. One of the things that I learned about in those early days and has just become a normal part of how I communicate with others, but also other people can communicate this way with me and know that I will understand what they mean. And that thing is spoon theory. Yes, spoons, spoon theory. So what is spoon theory? Where does it come from? What does it mean? And how can you use it? And why is it useful? And thank you so much to Convatec for sponsoring this video. I'll talk more about them later. They are a stoma care company and I am very excited to be working with them. So what is spoon theory? So spoon theory is a way of describing the experience of living with a disability or a chronic illness where spoons represent units of energy that you have available to you during the day. Maybe you have 6 spoons at the beginning of your day, but then as you do things, you are spending your spoons. Stick with me, people. This makes sense. Who invented spoon theory? It comes from Christine Miserandino, who has lupus, and she wrote about it in 2003 on her site, But You Don't Look Sick. She had developed spoon theory as a way of describing the impact of her lupus to her friends. She was at lunch with a friend, grabbed some spoons off the table to help her describe what it was like to live with a long-term health condition, and thus, spoon theory was born. Okay, so you might still be quite confused and we will get onto that. But first, a word from our sponsor, Convatec. This may be my most niche and specific brand collaboration to date, as there will only be a handful of you who this is relevant to personally, but there will also be many more of you who maybe know somebody who has a stoma. But also, I know that there are plenty of you who are just curious and interested to know more about what it is like to live with a stoma. And so, I'm going to share some of that info with you now. So Convatec are a stoma care brand. This is one of their stoma bags. Quick catch up. I have a stoma. I had surgery in January 2018 and the kind of stoma that I have is an ileostomy, which means that the ileum, like the end of my small intestine, pokes out of my stomach. So there is an internal organ actually on my outside, and then this sticks to my body. The stoma goes through this hole and into a bag I collect waste. We love it. We love it. There's your quick summary. So Convatec have loads of different stoma care products, and they have a new range of skincare products called Essenta. And the concept behind this is that accessories are essential for people living with stomas or hard to heal wounds. So these are some of the Essenta products, and these are things that I use almost daily as part of my stoma care routine. This stuff on the back of stoma bags that goes onto your belly is a really strong adhesive. You want it to be really strong because you want it to stay on so you don't get any leakages. However, you have to regularly change these for hygiene reasons. And so that is where our adhesive remover spray comes in. It is incredible. You just little spray it and the adhesive just comes off. And then also the adhesive remover comes in a wipe form as well. I mostly just use the spray form when I'm at home, but I always carry a wipe one in my like emergency stoma kit when I'm out and about. And the other thing is the sting-free barrier, and this is to help protect the skin around your stoma from the adhesive, but also from, you know, any potential waste, because that skin can get quite irritated, and this just helps to create a barrier, a layer of protection. And again, it has the spray form and the wipe form. I pretty much every bag change use a skin barrier wipe. So yeah, I love that I'm doing this partnership with Convatec and just showing you some things that are just so normal to me and like part of my daily life and just being like, yes, and then I use this spray and then I use this wipe. I love it. So if this is at all relevant to you or anyone you know or any loved ones, definitely check out Convatec and the new Essenta range. There'll be a link in the description and you can request free samples. So thank you so much to Convatec for sponsoring this video. And now on to, how do you use a spoon? Theory. So you have a set number of theoretical spoons at the beginning of your day, and each spoon represents a unit of energy, and this could be physical, mental, or emotional energy. Some healthy people, what is healthy? It's all a spectrum, blah, 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 blah. Some healthy people could have an unlimited amount of spoons or the ability to replenish spoons throughout the day. However, those with chronic illnesses or disabilities often have a finite number of spoons. And so it is all about managing your resources or managing your spoons throughout the day. It's important to know how many spoons you're starting your day with so you can make plans accordingly. Some days you'll have more or less spoons depending on other factors like sleep or stress or your menstrual cycle, or maybe your condition just happens to be playing up that day. Or if you overspent on your spoons the day before, so you're in a bit of a spoon deficit. Once you start using spoon theory to describe your experience of living with whatever condition it is that you have and managing your energy, you'll get a sense of how much certain daily tasks cost in spoons. Things like getting out of bed, having a shower, eating breakfast, commuting to work, doing work, hanging out with friends, going to the shops, doing life admin, looking after a baby, making dinner, getting ready for bed. Everything requires energy and everything costs spoons. When your spoons are gone, they're gone. You could borrow spoons from the next day, but then you would have less spoons tomorrow. It's all about making really conscious choices about what you can and can't do in a day and managing your time and energy, and also sometimes managing other people's expectations. It can be really useful for some people to always keep an emergency spoon in reserve just in case something comes up that will require your energy. But it is really, really tricky because oftentimes just basic life obligations will take up most of your spoons. You may have to skip social occasions or other things that you really want to do or experience because you just don't have the spoons, and you have to make really difficult decisions about how to use your spoons. It's very easy to experience a lot of internalized shame if easy tasks take up a lot of spoons, or if you run out of spoons in a day and have to leave the dirty dishes in the sink. But one of the things that I think is really, really important that we remember about disabled and chronically ill people, and one of the reasons why I wanted to make a video about spoon theory on this platform and hopefully introduce the concept to people who are outside of those communities as well, is to create this shared language and understanding of the experiences of disabled and chronically ill people. And instead of having an ableist society that means that disabled and chronically ill people are often having to meet the expectations of healthy people of an ableist society, instead those expectations would change, and also like structural support systems would change in order to meet the needs of disabled and chronically ill people. So my wonderful creative assistant Moog has ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome, and I asked for her to share with us what an average day looks like for her in terms of managing her spoons.
Hi, I'm Moog, I'm Hannah's creative assistant, and I have ME, or chronic fatigue syndrome. So to give you an example of what working for Hannah is like, or just working part-time as someone with ME, let's say I wake up with 15 spoons, which is being generous because, you know, I'm assuming we're just going to say I'm not on my period, I don't have a cold, I didn't overdo it the day before, and whatever mysterious factor it is at play for chronic illness that means sometimes you just wake up feeling garbage even though you haven't done anything else. Let's go through a day. So I need to have a wash, that's a spoon. Get dressed, that's another spoon. Make breakfast, 2 spoons. We're already 4 spoons down, and I've been up for like maybe half an hour. So you can see how this is, you know, not ideal for capitalism. So then working for Hannah, say if I work the morning, that's maybe 3 to 4 to 5 spoons for like 4-ish hours of work, depending on what the work is I'm doing that day, how emotionally grueling it is, because sometimes the podcast is a little heavier than others, how personal the work is, how much brain it requires, how much thinking I have to do. Always needs more spoons. So now we're 9 spoons down, let's say. So then we've got to make lunch, that's a spoon. Then a bit more work, say 2 more spoons. We're at 12 spoons down. Then I go and have a nap, which gives me 1 spoon back if I'm lucky. So now we're in the evening. That means I've got 3 spoons left. With those spoons, I need to eat, hang out with my wife, shower, and put my pajamas on. All of those are going to take at least a spoon. So I'm picking which of those I can do. So usually that's eat, shower, get ready for bed. My poor wife just gets what's left of me on a work day. So you can see how even starting with my average amount of spoons, you very quickly run out of spoons and you have to make a lot of decisions about what I'm going to prioritize and what I'm going to have to let go. You'll notice that nowhere in there have I done any household chores. I've not left the house. I've not gone grocery shopping. I've not read a book. I've not done anything for entertainment. That's spoons, and I've used all those for work. So for spoon theory, I really like it. When I found it when I first got diagnosed with ME, it felt really validating to have someone else understand what it was like just feeling your inability to do tasks sort of spiral throughout the day. And I really like having a shorthand for people who understand spoon theory. When you just go, I'm out of spoons, they understand what that means, that you can't just do it anyway. You know, there isn't that option. What I don't like about it, and this is just, I think, internalized ableism, is if I counted spoons during my day like I did for this example, I would be so depressed all the time, which is sort of what I'm doing, because you have to keep half an eye on what you think you will be able to do, and it's sort of gambling. You're always gambling with, how many spoons will this take? Do I know how many spoons this will take? How many spoons do I have left? Am I sure? Even if you think you know, sometimes you just don't, and that's when you run out of spoons unexpectedly. Sometimes I get to work in the morning, and I've been working for 20 minutes, and I'm like, oh, Hannah, I have to stop. I used all my spoons this morning putting my clothes on. It turned out I had 3 spoons today, and I've already washed myself and eaten, so that's them. Something else I will say is that non-chronically ill people seem to have an emergency reserve of spoons. I do not have an emergency reserve of spoons. So if anything happens that's unexpected or out of the ordinary or out of routine, or say, for example, just to pluck a hypothetical from thin air, you're moving house twice in 6 weeks and your wife has COVID, there is no energy reserve to deal with that. I've still only got the same amount of spoons, so stuff falls by the wayside, and I find that very frustrating.
So, why is spoon theory important? It may sound ridiculous and slightly humorous, but it has been hugely impactful for so many people. Since Christine Miserandina's blog post, it has taken off among disabled and chronically ill communities. It provides a language to talk about experiences and find and connect with others who are going through similar things. It's also created a shared language that can help us to communicate with our partners, friends, and family, and even co-workers. So hopefully you're not having to use spoons to explain your lack of spoons. It can act as a personal reminder that you are not flaky if you have to cancel plans, and you are not lazy if you can't do everything that you wanted to do in a day. You're just out of spoons, and that is okay. It helps to reduce the societal expectation to just push through or try harder. Capitalist culture really loves productivity and good, productive citizens, and really likes to tie productivity to some kind of moral good. And spoon theory, I think, really helps to push against that narrative. It's a visual metaphor, which we love, and that especially helps when it comes to those who are living with invisible disabilities. We can all visualize spoons. It acknowledges that simply managing your condition and your health takes spoons. Self-advocacy in the healthcare system and health admin is a whole beast. And it's an easy way to communicate what kind of day you're having, especially if you have an illness or a condition or a disability that comes and goes with flares and remissions, or you have more intense days than others. You might have good days or bad days, and the number of spoons that you have will vary day to day. Also, I want to ask the question, and this comes into something else that I remember learning about in that first year after having surgery, which is the social model of disability. So I want to ask, is your condition itself draining your spoons, or is it the trying to mold yourself to fit into an ableist society that's draining your spoons? The answer is probably a little bit of both, but it's still worth separating the two and examining it so you can better understand your condition, better understand society, and understand actually where is it that is taking your energy resources. Who is spoon theory for? So of course, it's for people with disabilities or chronic illnesses, and often these communities call themselves spoonies. Hello, I am a spoonie. It can also very much be applied to mental illness or neurodivergence. It really feels like it is something that is by and for the disabled and chronically ill community, and that is something that absolutely needs to be acknowledged. And this is something that is more of a personal belief. I would be curious to hear what other spoonies think about this, but I think it can be useful in other scenarios too. I think spoon theory can be incredibly helpful to people who are going through temporary health issues, also pregnant people, because oh boy, all throughout my pregnancy, I personally found spoon theory really useful to communicate with people about my energy that day and how I was feeling, and understanding kind of like how my spoons were affected throughout the entire pregnancy, because oh boy, was pregnancy a very debilitating condition for me. And then just also general life stuff that can take a toll on our physical, mental, or emotional well-being. I don't really vibe with people at the extreme end of the healthy spectrum maybe using spoon theory, because I do think that kind of defeats the point of it being about having a finite number of spoons, because if you have infinite spoons and you can replenish your spoons, then well done. Can anyone do that? Or is that some kind of superpower? I honestly don't know. And then the other thing that I'm trying to figure out if this fits in with spoon theory at all is breastfeeding or chest feeding. Because oh boy, that takes a lot of energy. It's like a physical thing that is happening that drains you. But there is something about parents like always running on empty, but always being able to find the energy that they need in reserve when they need it, because you're literally responsible for somebody else's life. So I don't know if that fits into spoon theory, but all I'll say is that since becoming a parent, I have very little spoons each day, and that is more to do with parenting than it is to do with my disability. So I don't know, maybe we need some flexibility with spoon theory, but also I think it's very important to acknowledge who it was created by and who it is intended for. You can't be using spoon theory willy-nilly whilst also not bothering to dismantle ableist society. We gotta do both. So thank you so much for watching. Have you heard of spoon theory before? Are you a fellow spoonie? What does an average day of using your spoons look like to you? And have you found it useful as a tool to communicate your experience with your condition with the other people in your life? And thank you so much again to Convatec for sponsoring this video. You can check them out with the link in the description, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!